Hello everyone, how are you? If you don't know me or my channel, then hello, my name is Katja. I am 30 years old, I live in Denmark, I'm married to Jonathan and we have 2 kids. Today I'm going to be sharing a Billy bookcase hack that my husband and I have been working on this past month. And yes, I said month because with work and kids and a lot of other stuff going on daily, it's taken us quite some time to do this hack, but I definitely believe that you could do this over a weekend if you don't have kids or any other things that you really have to attend to. I've been looking so much forward to this project and I've been looking even more forward to sharing it with all of you. Back in June, I posted a video of the Billy bookcase hack that we did in our previous home. This one is kind of similar. It's a little different though. The other video was for inspirational purposes, whereas this one is an actual step-by-step guide where I show you all the steps and everything that we ended up doing to achieve this result that you see behind me. This design is different in some ways compared to the first one that we did. This version is definitely more detailed and more complex, and some of the problems that we had with the last one, we didn't have those this time around because now we knew exactly how to do it, and we also knew how to take what we did last time and actually make that even better. Before I begin explaining the process and showing you more details, I have to say something really, really important, so pay attention right now. So in order to do this hack, you of course have to figure out how many bookcases do you need, how many cabinets do you need. If you're planning to do this hack and you live in the US, I just have to say that the KNOXHULT cabinets won't work for this because KNOXHULT cabinets are originally a kitchen cabinet, and kitchen cabinets have different standard measurements depending on what country you're in. So if you live in the US, I highly suggest that you use the EVAR cabinets instead for this hack, because the KNOXHULT cabinets will be a couple of inches too small for this to work for you. However, if you're from Europe, it should be fine. No matter what, no matter where you're from, always check the measurements, because it would be such a bummer to have bought all these cabinets and all these bookshelves and then none of it fits together. So please make sure to check that. The Billy bookcases are 40 centimeters wide and the KNOXHULT cabinets are also 40 centimeters wide. There's only a small difference in them. I think it's 3 millimeters if you're really, really picky. So you should be fine, you should be good. But if you're from the US, you should use another cabinet, and I recommend that you use the EVAR cabinets for this then. And I guess that was all I had to say about all of that. So now we can move on to the actual hack. So here we go. The first thing we did was to build a platform for the cabinets. Jonathan and our friend Simon cut all of the wood for the 2 platforms, and afterwards Simon put them together with the help of angle brackets. You could also just use some very long screws for this. That depends on what you have. And you don't even have to make the platform out of wood. You could also just make it out of MDF, and that would probably be easier in many ways. I actually would recommend that you do that. And then I went on to assemble all of the cabinets. And after I'd assembled all of the cabinets, we positioned the platform and attached it to the wall. Then we put all of the cabinets on top of it and attached them to each other with the help of clamps and these screws that I don't know what are called in English. If anyone knows, please comment down below. Haven't been able to find it anywhere in any dictionary or online or anywhere. And finally, we put screws through the cabinet bottom and into the platform. Here we put in wooden blocks to cover this gap between the cabinets and the wall, and afterwards we covered it with MDF and made sure that it was aligned with the cabinet. And the next step was to put an MDF tabletop on top of the cabinets as a nice finish. We had these 2 pieces cut at the hardware store. I highly recommend this because it's so much easier. It's cheap, it's fast. We wanted to add a rounded edge to each tabletop in order to get rid of the sharp edges, and we did that using this machine. It's a cordless edge router, and you can attach different cutters to it depending on what kind of finish you want. So we went for a rounded edge, which I think turned out pretty good. And I'll give you a little tip here. Before using a machine like this, It's always a good idea to practice a little on a piece of discarded MDF before you cut the edge on the pieces that you're actually going to use for your project. If you're interested in taking a closer look at the edge router, I've linked it down below. If you like doing IKEA hacks and other home improvement projects, it's a nice machine to have available to you because it can help you take your project kind of to the next level, and you can make some really pretty details with this, and it's super easy to use even if you don't have very much experience using any tools at all. So this is what it ended up looking like. I think it turned out really good. Then we assembled the bookcases, but in our case we had to cut about 23 centimeters off each of them and make new holes for some of the shelves in each bookcase so that each gap would be the same size. In order to attach the bookcases to the tabletop, Jonathan put a nail in the tabletop and then he cut off the top of the nail. And because the bookcase is not made of solid wood, you can actually just place it onto the nail. You have to do this with the bookcase on each end, meaning that you don't have to do it on the bookcases in the middle. And make sure to also attach these bookcases to each other. We found out that there's actually a 3mm difference between the cabinets and the bookcases. So to adjust for this, we put in some 3mm MDF between each bookcase. We didn't do that back when we made our first version of this hack in our previous home, and this difference wasn't visible at that time. So I'd say that this part is optional, but if you choose to do it, you should cover up the gaps with something. I'll show you what we did later on, but again, you really don't have to do this. When you've done all of that, it's very important to also attach the bookcases to the wall on top, and that should be enough to stabilize them completely. To cover up the gap out here, we attached wooden blocks to the bookcases and to the cabinets, and we attached 4 to the bookcases and 3 to the cabinets, and then a long piece of MDF on the outside, making sure that they aligned with the sides of the cabinet and the bookcase. Then I covered all holes with grout, sanded them, grouted them again, and sanded for the last time, and at last I made sure to wipe off all the dust before I started caulking all of the gaps.
Last night I was dreaming out loud. California sun was making my eyes dry. Next year in the winter, let's give it a try. I'll keep on dreaming out loud tonight. Summer's over and you still haven't called me back. We're just getting older. Soon enough it'll be too late to act. Let's do it again. Let's ride on that waves of gold. California sundown. I'll wait for your call, 'cause I wouldn't go on my own. Last night I was dreaming out loud. California sun was making my eyes dry. Can we still make it happen? It's worth a try. And I might keep on dreaming out loud. It's a beautiful life, staying under blue skies. Next year in the winter, let's give it a try. I'll keep on dreaming out loud tonight. Winter's dawning and I can't seem to.
In this part of the video, I'll take you through how we decorated our cabinet fronts, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the paint that I've used for this project, so let's get into that. Okay, so these doors come without any kind of decoration whatsoever, and the decoration can be done in a number of ways depending on what you prefer. But what I did was I placed moldings on each of the doors, and I also put an extra square in the middle to make the design more detailed and add a little more depth to it. First, I marked the cabinet door to decide where I wanted to place the moldings. These are placed about 3.8 centimeters from the edges of the door that measures 39.5 centimeters in total. Jonathan cut the moldings in a 45-degree angle, and the squares that I used for the middle are made of 3mm MDF that we had a guy at the local hardware store cut for us so that the cut would be sharp and even. It's definitely way easier and faster than cutting it yourself if you don't have a saw that's advanced enough for this. Then I simply just glued the moldings and the MDF square to the cabinet door. I didn't mark the exact position of the square on the cabinet door Jonathan and I actually just eyeballed it while checking the position with a ruler afterwards to make sure it was centered compared to the moldings. Then I recommend that you check how long the glue needs to dry before you touch them again so that you don't push anything out of place. Before caulking the gaps between the squares and the cabinet door and the moldings and the cabinet door, I used a very small amount of grout to cover the small gap where the moldings meet each other, and on some of them I placed a little more grout if needed and sanded them again. Before I started caulking, I placed masking tape very close to the areas that I was going to caulk, and that really helped me remove a lot of the excess caulk. First, I used wet wipes to wipe off the excess caulk, and then in the end I pulled off the masking tape and left all of them to dry for about 24 hours before I started priming them. I've said this in multiple videos, but in case you haven't watched those, I always recommend that you use good quality paint. My go-to brand is Jotun, and I love their primer and their Supreme Finish medium gloss paint, so I naturally also used those products for this hack. And now, the moment that I've been waiting impatiently for, it's time to attach the cabinet doors and see the final result. For now, we don't plan on attaching any knobs, but instead we're going to buy push openers from Ikea. We've used them for previous hacks and we were very happy with them.
Somebody told me that you felt the same way since we went. Why won't you give me a call? We'll ride on those waves again. California. And I can wait through a storm, 'cause without you it wouldn't be the same. Last night I was dreaming out loud. California sun was making my eyes dry. Can we still make it happen? It's worth a try. Oh, and I might keep on dreaming out loud. It's a beautiful life staying under blue skies. And next year in the winter, let's give it a try. I'll keep on dreaming out loud tonight. Yeah.
To cover up the transition between the bookcases, we figured that fluted moldings was the way to go. The ones we put between the bookcases are a little bigger than the ones that we put on the sides of the bookcases closest to the walls and the doors. I've linked both moldings down below in the description. Down here we attached these baseboards, and we're also planning on attaching something up here, but that'll be a part of our next project, so stay tuned. So that was my Billy Bookcase hack, the updated and improved version. I hope that I've been able to inspire you and that you would consider doing something similar yourself in your own home. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask away in the comments. I try to do my best to answer everyone. And I also want to say that I've placed links for my other IKEA hacks down below in the description, so if you're interested in my other hacks, you can definitely check those out. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more interior and lifestyle content. Thank you for watching, and I'll have a new video for you again very soon.
Last night I was dreaming out loud. California